Despite the movie being called Dogman, it centers more around Petey the Evil Cat. The story starts as a comedic and cartoony good versus evil scrap, with Petey trying to figure out how best to stop his buddy cop hero rivals. After a tragic accident leads to the creation of Dogman, which combines the best attributes of both of his rivals into one intimidating package, Petey decides he needs help. He turns to an Amazon site dupe and orders a 1-star rated cloning machine. Instead of the exact copy he was hoping for, he finds a pint-sized clone, and the core of the story becomes his personal struggle with, I'm someone's dad. Petey's approach of wanting to engineer an exact copy of himself is an on-the-nose allegory for parents that do want, and even anticipate a mini-me, despite how much of a dice roll genetics are. That's not even considering what impact environment, future friends, and other factors contribute to a kid's development. Wanting a mini-me runs the gamut from expecting a child to follow in a parent's footsteps and take over the family business, to a child posing as their vicarious opportunity to live out a failed dream. In Petey's case, he's hoping for the perfect partner that can read his thoughts and work in sync with him. When little Petey shows signs of being a very different, unique person in his own right, Petey immediately opts to get rid of him as soon as possible. You're not exactly what I want, so you're useless to me. He abandons his son with very little regard towards who might take him, or where he might end up. When Dogman adopts little Petey, it's interesting that the story deliberately sets him as an uncle or secondary parent figure. For lack of a better comparison, it's similar to how Steven Universe slowly establishes the 3 main crystal gems as Steven's guardians, but none of them are just a mom. They're all a different kind of parental or guiding figure in Steven's life. There aren't any specific labels applied here either. The emphasis is, these characters are part of Steven's village and larger support network. Dogman is part of Lil Petey's family at large. Lil Petey has a room at Dogman's house. They have an established rapport and dynamic. But Lil Petey is very clear about his feelings. Dogman is Dogman, while Petey is Papa. While Petey and Lil Petey have a strained relationship, Lil Petey guides the conversation and framing on exactly what he wants from his estranged father. When Petey decides he wants to re-enter Lil Petey's life, it's somewhere between regret and still viewing Lil Petey as a piece of property. Playing Papa is more of an obligation than an earnest desire to parent. Why it's somewhere in between is that Petey has the hallmarks of a parent doing the bare minimum to prepare and install their child as their future heir or the next part of an ongoing legacy. Parents like the Northwest and Gravity Falls only had Pacifica as a placeholder. She's held to very strict standards, is expected to fit a specific mold, attitude, and reputation. There's no consideration for her individual interests or personhood. Petey gestures or hints at wanting to shift from no-interest parent to setting Lil Petey as the next in line to spearhead his evil machinations. He's now trying to figure out how to craft the perfect mold to shape Lil Petey into the villain he is now. Instead, Petey actually engages with Lil Petey on his level. It has similar energy to how Ida in the Owl House, a very eccentric woman that has more or less lived a bachelorette lifestyle, eventually sympathizes with and relates so much to Luce that she becomes Luce's teacher and eventual adoptive parent on the Boiling Isles. Ida's relationship with Luce also helps her realize that she's been King's active parent for years, and cements the title, importance, and permanence of being King's mom with official adoption papers. Petey opens up about exactly why he is intimidated by the idea of becoming a parent. Lil Petey is asking him to step up, and Petey doesn't have a clear idea about what a father is, let alone what a proper father figure looks like. Other parents in a similar situation can and do pull from their parents' playbook for better or worse. In Petey's case, he tries to set Lil Petey in a poorly repurposed janitor's closet with a mop bucket as his bed. He lays out his intentions to try and be verbally abusive, overly critical, and neglectful. This is rough commentary on what it looks like when parents let generational trauma seep through into their own parenting efforts. While they might course correct or try to fill in gaps, if they haven't addressed or worked through their own trauma, they might make the same mistakes as their own parents, It may not be as severe, it may come out in a different way, or it may be worse. The crux of it is, a parent will repeat their own parents' mistakes that they can't pinpoint, where their parents messed up, and the impact it had on them up to present day. Since Petey talks to Lil Petey directly, it shows that he does recognize Lil Petey as a separate person with his own thoughts, needs, and individuality. This is a huge part in why it's believable that Petey is capable of listening, change, and redemption later. In real life, and in media that features bad parents at an impasse with their kids, a big part of the miscommunication could be anything from refusing to acknowledge the kid as anything but an extension of themselves, entering a conversation with the mindset that they're in the right with no room to compromise, and refusing to actually listen. The parent is the main character, while the child is nothing but a supporting role. Petey mimes what this looks like, but he does listen to Lil Petey's points, inputs, and criticism. While Lil Petey does gain traction through pushback, determination, and stubbornness, his efforts aren't met with the defensive reactions or power moves parents in this position might otherwise use. Petey is stubborn and bristly, but he acquiesces to Lil Petey. He does soak in, contemplate, and consider what Lil Petey suggests or comments on as he slowly comes around. There are more stories about bad parents developing a sense of self-awareness and turning around to correct their behavior. Part of Dogman's twist is that Grandpa shows up on screen, with enough screen time and character interactions to establish him as a stuck-in-his-ways piece of work. He never apologizes or acknowledges abandoning Petey. He actively belittles, demeans, and criticizes Petey. At the end of the movie, he steals everything in Petey's evil lair before once again leaving with no remorse. All of this is shown and depicted as a PG introduction to the idea and rationale behind someone in Petey's situation going no contact with the parent. It's a caricature, but it beautifully drives the point home that being family isn't a free pass to put up with abusive behavior, or a guarantee that a parent is loving by default. Being a parent isn't just a title, it's an active commitment. Reuniting with Grandpa sparks Petey's empathy and plays a key role in what helps him figure out what he is to Lil Petey, and that he honestly wants to try to fill this role. He wants to do better than Grandpa, and be the dad to Lil Petey that he unfortunately didn't get to have. Dogman as a movie does entertain the fantasy that a bad dad like Petey can have a redemption arc, and put in the effort towards becoming a healthy, loving parent. Including Grandpa hammers home that Petey is worth giving some kind of grace, because he's putting in the effort to change through his words and his actions. The change is consistent. He shows genuine intimacy and love. Grandpa's presence reinforces that not every relative deserves a second chance, and that grace is better extended to someone going to the lengths and effort Petey does. As someone with a very complicated relationship with their own parents, I want to keep Dogman on standby for a hypothetical future kid to help explain why I don't want anything to do with their grandparents in a way that meets them at their level. Thanks for watching! If you're interested in videos covering a similar topic, I have one on Lord Boxman from OKKO, as another story about a bad parent perpetuating generational trauma before they eventually clean up their act. Most of my newer videos are about OKKO, actually. I'm still getting back into the swing of things with YouTube stuff, so I hope you'll stick around. Add me to your RSS reader!